We begin the episode with a flashback montage of Dunk's time with Sir Arlen, particularly toward the end of his life. I thought the use of the framing device of Dunk appealing to various lords that Arlen worked for to vouch for him was very well done. Despite the montage starting with yet another gross-out joke, I found the montage to be overall pretty touching, and felt it gave us a solid depiction of the type of flawed, but ultimately good-hearted man Arlen was. Unfortunately, Dunk's recounting doesn't manage to appeal to any of the lords, who all can't remember Arlen, and in turn refuse to vouch for him. Egg provides him with an encouraging pep talk, but is interrupted by the arrival of members from House Targaryen. This prompts Egg to make some excuse to run back to their camp, which Dunk approves with a warning not to run off. Though the current king, Daeron II, is not in attendance, a substantive portion of his family is. Leading the Targaryen group is the king's firstborn son, Baelor. He's currently both hand of the king and heir to the throne. Also joining him is his younger brother Maekar, as well as his son Valar and Maekar's son Aerion. However, we learn a bit later that two more of Maekar's sons are supposed to be in attendance, but have gone missing on their way up to the tournament, but we'll get back to that soon. The first Targaryen that Dunk directly encounters is Aerion. Despite Aerion being incredibly arrogant and rude toward Dunk, being the kind-hearted person he is, still takes care of his horse when it starts to throw a fit. While doing so, he meets two members of the Kingsguard, seemingly in attendance to protect the Targaryen group. Finding out that one of these Kingsguard members is not from a noble house and has worked his way up from nothing gives Dunk a wave of encouragement, which later gets quashed when Egg reveals that said Kingsguard member is actually a Nepo baby, his father essentially running the Westerosi crabbing industry. While riding his not yet quashed wave of confidence, Dunk decides to seek out the Targaryens, particularly Baelor, to vouch for him, as he recalls a joust in which Arlen dueled Baelor. Though he conveniently makes it up to their meeting room without any problems, he hides when he realizes that he'd accidentally stumbled upon a conversation clearly intended to be private. Two of Maekar's sons, Prince Daeron and Prince Aegon, went missing on their way up to the tournament. While they don't quite know what happened to them, they guess that Daeron ran off because he was forced to enter the tournament by his dad Maekar, despite adamantly not wanting to. After comically getting caught by Lord Ashford's daughter, a fellow snooper, in the hallway, whose birthday this tournament is actually in honor of, he's noticed by Maekar, who demands he show himself. Dunk uses this outing as an opportunity to appeal to Baelor, who actually remembers having jousted against Arlen at a tournament in the past. In the book, it's made clear that Dunk was actually there at said tournament and remembers Arlen broke 7 lances against Baelor. This makes Dunk eventually agreeing to Baelor's claim that it was just 4 and apologizing all the more frustrating. In the show, however, it seems to be implied that Arlen just told him the story rather than Dunk being there to witness it, which makes the tall tale element plausible. Unlike Maekar, who comes off very rude and crotchety throughout the whole encounter, Baelor, despite showing his arrogance in that moment, overall shows kindness toward Dunk and vouches for him to enter the tournament. Baelor does, however, inform Dunk that because he wasn't Arlen's biological son, he can't carry a sigil on his shield and must get a new one commissioned for himself. For this commission, he decides to go to Tansel, whose puppet show he had watched during episode 1. This time she's in the midst of performing in another show, depicting the story of Florian the Fool. This is actually a story that Sansa recounts and thinks about quite a bit during the main series. Following the show, through an incredibly awkward conversation, Dunk successfully persuades Tansel to paint a new sigil for his shield. Coming up with the concept for the sigil on the spot together with Egg, the two decide on imagery of a sunset, tree, and shooting star. The sunset is in remembrance of Arlen, who loved watching sunsets, while the tree and shooting star are symbolic of the tree Dunk and Egg slept under, and the shooting star they saw that they felt would bring them luck. In the main series, Brienne recalls there being a shield with this exact sigil hanging in the home she grew up in on the Isle of Tarth. Later, Dunk and Egg are killing time waiting for the tournament to start when Lionel pulls them into a game of tug-of-war. While on its surface this is a very funny and entertaining scene, it also has some symbolic importance. We see Lionel, who clearly started this tug-of-war, walk off to grab a drink while all his men are still struggling intensely to pull. He eventually joins back in, but at the final moment, and revels in the victory when his side wins. I appreciated this comical yet relevant metaphor for how lords use the small folk living under them, particularly in the context of war. Now that Dunk has certainty that he'll be able to participate in the tournament, he sets off to buy some armor. Why this scene didn't take place before the prior tug-of-war sequence is a bit weird, since getting armor should be Dunk's first priority after being allowed to participate in the tournament. After learning just how expensive the armor actually is, he leaves a few stags as a deposit to get the commission started, and promises to return with the full amount. Unfortunately, he decides to sell his last horse, the one he was closest with, to get the money, promising to buy her back once he wins the tournament. Soon after, the tournament itself begins. While the only clear characters we've been introduced to so far that I was able to recognize participating in this first match were Lionel Baratheon and Baelor Targaryen's son Valar, I also noticed sigils from House Tully, House Lannister, and House Hightower. The participant who bit the head off a fish before the match commenced was from House Tully, whose sigil is a fish. While watching the intensity and brutality of the tournament, we see Dunk begin to panic, realizing just what the hell he's actually signed himself up for. He has flashbacks to burying Sir Arlen, realizing just how much Arlen failed to leave a legacy. Back at their camp, Egg, clearly riled up by the excitement of the opening match, is playing, pretending to be a knight himself. We hear him yell, "Do you yield, you Blackfire bastards?" This is actually the first reference we've got in the show to the Blackfire Rebellions. This series of wars is actually the political backdrop for the Dunk and Egg series. I talk about it a bit more in my Knight of the Seven Kingdoms Explained video, but the House Targaryen ruling during this time is far from at its height. With all of their dragons, the key to their control, having died out by this time, their grip on power would already be more fragile as it is. Simultaneously, however, they're contending with recurring rebellions from House Blackfire, an offshoot branch of House Targaryen that believes their line of the family should be the one in control. But we'll get deeper into that as it becomes more prevalent in the story. The episode concludes with Dunk contemplating Arlen's legacy, questioning if he was legitimately a good knight or not. Ultimately, however, he settles on honoring Arlen's memory by winning in the tourney against the lords who looked down on him. And that about does it for episode 2. Despite how short each episode has been, I really love how well this show is doing at adapting and honoring the stories, world, and characters George R. R. Martin wrote. If you enjoyed this breakdown and would like to see more Song of Ice and Fire content of this nature, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week for episode 3.